Hello everybody, it's me again. So today I'm going to speak on narcissism because I did pull out a voting on the community page, and that one of the highest voting is narcissism, along with the other one that is like both are at 33%. The other one is avoidant and anxious attachment styles. So, and then the other ones are ADHD and also healing childhood trauma. I actually would love to speak on all of them, but for now, I'm gonna speak on narcissism because it's one of the highest votes. Okay, and I'm going to speak from personal, first-hand experience and also personal observation, as well as my takeaway from the experiences that I have gone through. Okay, so yep, and I have timestamps written in the description box, and you can skip to the part that you feel most resonating with or you want to know more about directly. Okay, and this is like the little draft that I just wrote out, and to start with the what, where, when, how, and why. Like that's the flow. All right. So let me briefly go through this overview, like the overview of the video, and so then everyone has a better idea of what are we going to talk about. Okay. So for the first one is what is narcissism? Okay. And I will talk about from the psychological perspective, sociological perspective, and also spiritual perspective on narcissism. What is narcissism? The second one is where. Where can I spot narcissism in life? Or say, where would an individual encounter narcissism in life? Okay, in our lives, basically. And I would give out examples and how to distinguish this type or types of narcissism. And the third one would be when should I leave the situation? Okay, in this one I would love to share how to actually set healthy boundaries, because a lot of the time that we might not be able to leave the situation physically because we do have to interact with certain people like that. There are many cases like that. So while we can't leave the situation physically, we can actually set healthy boundaries. So, okay. And then the fourth one is how. How to leave, okay, the situation, as well as how to live the situation, like living with it. Because there are certain times that the people that have these narcissistic traits, they are actually family members or or even your spouse. So it's either we leave it or live with it. So that would be my personal takeaways from my own experience of how to live and how to live with it. And then the fifth one would be, why is self-love the cure to it all, okay? That is it, okay? So let's start. That's the overview of the video, the content of the video. So let's start with what is narcissism. And as I already said, we're gonna talk about psychological perspective, sociological perspective, as well as the spiritual perspective on what is narcissism. So let's start with psychological. Okay, the psychological perspective. These are all my personal take. Okay, these are all my personal opinions on that this topic, narcissism. And before I actually begin, I actually would love to talk about why I have these kind of experiences. I'm just gonna say because I grew up in such an environment with both my parents they embody a lot of narcissistic traits, which I would actually talk about in the second one, which is where can I spot where can I, okay, like everyone, spot narcissism in daily life, okay? For me, it start from childhood. So both my parents are. But it's not to blame them though. For me, it's not to blame them. It's through understanding what it is, which is we are talking about now, right? What is narcissism? Only then I would come to understand from their point of view. And so it is through understanding I free myself from such a binding. Okay, it's free myself from my own mental space, from my own emotional space, and that is how I free myself from it. Like live in the mud, but not of it. Okay, so let's begin. What is narcissism to me on a psychological perspective? Narcissism, if we see from the perspective of psychology, is that these individuals are unable to see within themselves. And usually the reason that why they are unable to see within themselves is because it's too painful for them to actually explore those shadow sides, or we could say trauma. And so that would go into the unconscious mind, right? The unconscious mind is actually where all the traumas are stored. And when it comes to narcissistic individuals, they actually have a lot of wounds psychologically stored in their unconscious minds. And it is for this reason, however, it is up to each individual, right? That if they would like to look into it in order to heal themselves from within, and that is a personal choice. So we can never really force anyone to look within unless they want to. And that is the case for narcissism, because there are individuals that they got so wounded from their life experience since childhood could be, that is so painful. And these are the individuals that do not want to, or they do not want to see the wounds, so they stop it down, or they don't know the tools. Okay, they don't have the tools with them to cope with how to heal themselves. Okay, so it's not that everyone doesn't want to heal, but it's when a lot of things are being stuffed down into the unconscious mind. It gets harder and harder, more difficult for individuals to open this dark room, the dark room, to actually look at all these dirty things and to have to start cleaning. Like for example, if a person does not have the habit to clean their room, okay, over time the room becomes so messy, okay, and getting messier and messier and messier, and more dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. But it's exactly the reason that they don't want to clean the room. But they keep putting, like rubbish, trash or files in it, like a storeroom, basically like a storage room. But they don't clean the storage room. They don't organize the storage room. They don't throw out the objects or items that are not useful, or they don't actually use it anymore. So then over time, this entire storeroom would be full of trash and a lot of unused things. And then what would happen? Things would start to have molds, right? Like bacteria. And there would be pests like mice or cockroaches, because things would start to decay if it happens to be their food, right? This is like an imaginary thing. It's an analogy that I'm trying to portray. So when individuals are unable to Sometimes it takes courage. It really takes courage, and also encouragement from the environment. But if they don't have the courage nor the encouragement that could propel them to look within, to actually open the door to look at this dark room, which is the storage room, basically the unconscious mind, so to speak, things get messier and messier over time. And that is when it would come to a point that they don't even want to clean up. You know, there's a certain time, right? If you have so many dishes that are unclean on the sink, the more that it piles up, the less you want to clean. Anyone has this feeling ever? Has it experienced before? That's exactly the same thing as our unconscious mind. Because see, that's how trauma works to me. That's how trauma forms to me, okay? How I see it is that whenever we encounter experiences that are very traumatic, like really shocking. It could be like someone we love a lot pass away. It could be a betrayal, of a friend's betrayal. It could be cheating, affair of a love affair, about a marriage. It could be a lot of other things. It could be like a car accident. These are all shocking things, okay, to the human psyche. Of course, it could be to different, how should I say, like on a different degree for each individual. But in general, these are events that could be very, very shocking to the human psyche, okay, in general. And when we receive such shocks to our psyche, that is when we are conscious, right? Like we are shocked and we are conscious of the shock. However, if we are not able to process this shock, it's like a shock in physics, like shock. If you absorb this shock and you don't know how to transform this energy from this action, right? Because there's energy here and it's transformed right into this. If we only absorb it in and not knowing how to disperse it or transform it into another form of energy, then it would get stuffed down to the subconscious mind and then further over time to the unconscious mind. And that forms trauma. It then would become very hidden. That's why it's called unconscious, huh? That would become very hidden, very unconscious. Because that's why when people think or when people say, oh, time would heal, it depends. How I see it is, it really depends. If a person actively works on transmuting or transforming this shock, meaning to have healthy outlets to channel this energy out, the shock, okay? Think of it in physics. If these are healthy outlets, such as journaling, such as talking to friends, such as going to exercise, these are all different forms of transmuting energies out in a healthy way. Or even through music, okay? Writing lyrics, poems, or even cooking, like devoting to something else and transmuting it, okay? However, when individuals do not know this, they don't have these tools, it would then turn into another direction. That would be unhealthy outlets. When anything is not being able to express outwards in a healthy ways, in healthy ways, such as the outlets that I just briefly mentioned, it would then go internal. It's an internalization process, and that is from the conscious to subconscious and to the unconscious. And that is exactly the same case, how I perceive it, for people who embody narcissism. It is not that they are bad people. It is not that, no, to me, it's not about they're bad people or not. It's that they are acting from a very unhealed trauma stored in their unconscious mind, the dark room. And it is exactly because they possibly did not have the tools to deal with that when the shock happened, or some people would, also they just don't want to deal with it. Okay, it depends. But all in all, how I perceive it is that on a psychological perspective, to see that is that this is all about unhealed trauma in the unconscious mind. And when individuals don't perceive themselves, they don't want to perceive themselves, the inner wounds, the unhealed wounds, they would project out. And that's why people who interact with individuals that are narcissistic, they would feel very uncomfortable or being suppressed or under control or feeling very attacked by narcissistic people. That's the reason. Because narcissistic traits are basically because they are unable to look within, because they don't want to see, right? They don't want to clean the room. And then they would project out. The reason that they project out is because through projecting out, they can then avoid the responsibility to look within. Okay, that is I would say this is actually very significant, is that the reason that they project out is because that would then, they can avoid the responsibility, their own responsibilities to look within. So how would this be manifest? It would, for example, it would be manifested in they would not admit or acknowledge anything that they have, like such as them hurting another person through maybe verbally or physically. They would not admit any kind of wrongdoings, in a way. They would not apologize. Even if when they apologize, usually is through victimization, like self-victimizing, okay? And that, again, is because of unhealed wounds, okay, stemming from the unconscious mind. So usually, very, very usually, narcissistic people, they do embody the trait of self-victimization, okay? So, and victimization is one of the outcomes of not wanting to face the dark room, because again, when anyone chooses to self-victimize, it means that they don't have to take the responsibility again to clean up the room by themselves. Okay, it's the same mindset, that it's just the entire revolving pattern is that they just don't want to, they can just avoid to clean the room. Okay, that's how it is. And so all in all, it depends on individuals if they want to take up the courage and to work through the traumas in their own unconscious minds. So no one can help them unless they want to do so. So that is a brief psychological perspective that I can share in this video. If anyone wants to know more, please comment below. Your comments are very well appreciated and I read them all, okay? So now let's go into the sociological perspective on narcissism. Sociologically, why is it that I would like to speak about narcissism on a sociological perspective? It's because a lot of the things that we interact with, they have a very strong influence to our psyches. And that goes the same for narcissism. A lot of the individuals that they have narcissistic traits is very much because of their backgrounds, as well as how they're being brought up, or say what kind of experiences that they have had since early childhood. It could be like bullying in school, or the family dynamics that is very toxic. It could be one of their parents is narcissistic, or it could be they don't receive love, or they don't understand love since childhood. There could be many reasons. And so from a sociological point of view, I would say this is more like a collective phenomenon, like on the whole, to seeing this on a global perspective, because we are all connected. That's how I see it. Okay, and when in a society, I would even say it's a global thing, global society, that we do have a lot of wars and unstable situations or events happening since human history. I don't know, since the beginning of human history. So this could be seen as a generational trauma, because if from seeing from a lineage, or you'd be like family bloodline, right? If there are certain events happened in the past, that is very traumatizing. It could really affect the next generations because of that. If in one generation there is like a very severe, something like a lot of, what I'm saying, like very traumatizing events, it could pass down to the entire lineage if it being unhealed. So what does it mean when there are wars, or like all these traumatizing events globally, or just even regionally happening? Even it could be natural disasters, okay? The next generations, okay, after this shocking event, they are the ones that have to absorb this shock. And it depends on these generations, these next generations, how are they gonna transmute these shocks? That is very important, because usually it's because of shocking. You see, if people are unable to transmute in the first or second generation because, as relating to the shock, they could very much turn into a narcissistic personality disorder, because when they are unable to cope with that. So that actually means the next generations would then take up the responsibilities to heal themselves. So it's all about healing oneself. And that is why I said, why is self-love the cure? Self-love is the cure, because we are responsible for healing oneself and not other people. When we heal oneself, we free ourselves. That actually would change the entire dynamics of the entire situation. Really. Okay, so that is the sociological perspective of it. And now let's go into the spiritual perspective on narcissism. So when we go into spiritual perspective, it kind of, I would love to bring in, energy mechanisms as well, because it is metaphysics. Spirituality and metaphysics are directly related. So when it comes to this, is the energy mechanism, or we can say energy dynamics, about narcissism. So how I can express this is that narcissistic people, if we have to put it in the form, but not that I want to label people in a negative way, is that they are usually more or less very draining. Okay, so people would say this like vampire, energy vampire, okay, the term energy vampire, okay. But again, I would love to bring up or say remind that not that they are bad people, it's just they are unhealed. They have their own inner work, or say shadow work, or say psychological unconscious wounds to heal, okay, from within. Okay, that's that. It's their own responsibilities. So these people are usually, when we are with narcissistic individuals, we would feel we would feel tired, like draining. It's very draining, energy draining. We feel tired. We will feel like it's just energetically uncomfortable. Okay, and so what we can see from this is that it is kind of like a black hole. Narcissistic individuals are like black holes. So because you see, black holes actually suck in light, right? Like on a metaphysical level, black holes suck in light. And that's exactly how narcissistic patterns operate as well. Their entire mindset act like black holes. And that's why when any kind of energy that is lighter, okay, which means higher frequency, higher vibration, right, are closer to these individuals, they are on a lower vibration, okay, so longer wavelengths. When anyone has higher vibration, so meaning shorter wavelengths, these individuals would become something like a black holes to those that have a higher frequency, operate in a higher vibration. And so that would then, the energy would suck into it. However, this is not something that is like, oh, they steal my energy or like they drain me. Yes, it's valid as well. Like it is true if anyone would like to perceive it that way. But it is also true that is simply science. So think of it as like, when in science or chemistry and physics, anyone has any experiences with studying this, there's something called higher concentration and lower concentration, right? When anything, say, is a solution, there's a solution and there's a solvent. It's solvent, right? Because you put, say, there's a glass of water, okay? Imagine there's a glass of water. You put the ink, a drop of ink, okay? The ink is very concentrated, right? It is very concentrated, but it then would diffuse into the water, right? And then you don't even have to stir it, right? You don't even have to stir it. If you stir it, it just becomes faster because you add energy into it. And also this energy, the stirring of it, it facilitates and accelerates the formation of the bonding between the molecules, right? However, let's put that aside, like we don't even have to stir. The ink in itself would diffuse naturally after a few minutes or 5 minutes, right? Or 10 minutes, it depends. However, what I'm trying to say here is that this is just from higher concentration to a lower concentration, right? It is just the way it is. But think about it. What is higher concentration and what is lower concentration? Higher concentration basically means it's dense, right? It is denser. That is why it's concentrated, more concentrated or higher concentration. What does it mean? It means it is lower in vibration. Whenever anything is, say, like a cup, this is solid, right? This is solid. As comparing to this and fog F-O-G, fog. The fog, the cup is much more dense, right? It's much more dense. However, for the fog in the air, it's like it's floating, right? It's floating. It's floating. I should do it again. It's so cute. I'm so cute. So the fog is like floating, right? It's floating. And it's because it is lighter, right? And the cup is denser. So it means the fog in itself has a lower concentration because it has a lighter mass. Whereas for the cup, it has a heavier mass, like more critical mass. And it is actually higher in concentration. Like if I have to compare it something like gas and solid, you know what I'm saying? Like from solid to liquid to gas. That's what it means. Now, let's go back to narcissism, the black hole thing. The black hole is the one that is contraction, that is denser, that is more higher concentration. Okay? And when anything is from higher concentration, it would go to lower concentration. And in this sense, it's like the ink that is high concentration, it would diffuse to wherever there's a lower concentration. What does it mean is that the space, like wherever you're vibrating on a light, you're on a higher frequency vibration, you would naturally be feeling affected or influenced because of the natural balancing of the energy. Does it make sense? So I'm speaking this from, it's a science, purely scientific base of how energy goes. So it is actually a natural phenomenon. When anyone encounters narcissistic people, you would feel drained because it's how energy would go, how the concentration would end up like that, from higher concentration to lower concentration. Meaning from like the lower vibration would be attracted by the higher vibrations, lighter. Okay, light and darkness, right? It is a natural phenomenon from an energy perspective. Okay, from a scientific or metaphysic perspective, they're all the same. Okay, so why am I bringing this up is because through understanding or through these three perspectives, psychological, sociological, and also spiritual, we can come to different ways of seeing narcissism. And now it's up to you how you want to perceive it, or you want to mix both of them or three of them together and generate your own insight on it, right? It's up to you. So I'm here just to express how I see when it comes to these three perspectives to seeing narcissism. And for me personally, how I feel about it is that it is just what it is. Like narcissism, it is what it is, and I understand how individuals operate differently because of their ability to deal with traumas or say shocks. And when they're unable, or they don't want to, or they don't have the tools to transmute all of these energies from the shock out in healthy outlets, they would then suppress it or stuff it down through the conscious to the subconscious and unconscious. And that in itself would then manifest in narcissism in themselves. And over time, if they keep doing this repeatedly, like stuffing down, it's self-destructing. It is self-sabotaging, self-destructing, and also to other people around them. So, yeah. Okay. I am, should I, 34 minutes, should I keep going? Yeah, I'm just gonna keep, because there are timestamps. You guys gonna go into the ones that you wanna go into, okay? I'm just gonna keep doing, because I was thinking, should I, separate this in another video? So nah, let's just do it like a 2 hour or whatever. I'm just gonna upload it. Okay, so second one is, where can I spot narcissism in life? Well, for me, it's my family. I'm gonna speak from personal experience, okay? This one. Where can we spot narcissism in daily life? Honestly, I personally have encountered a lot of this anywhere, or say everywhere. It can be in workplace, it can be in family dynamics, it can be in friend groups. So all in all, anywhere we can come across narcissistic individuals anywhere. Okay. Now for me, I firsthand experienced this since childhood, and it's only, I would say, recently, like this year, that I actually dived into understanding certain psychological terms when it comes to like narcissism. For me, it's very interesting, because I have already more or less healed within myself. So like my own responsibility to heal myself, okay? It's not about any other people. So it's just my responsibility. That's how I see it. So I more or less healed myself from it. And it's only at the end of it I came across the terms, narcissistic types and stuff, okay? And that's why I can share with you all in certain jargons or terms, okay? But I love to keep things simple, so then everyone can understand and apply in their own ways for their best benefit, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about my own experience. My father and my mother, okay, I'm saying my dad and my mom. My dad is, they are not diagnosed, okay? No, it's just how I perceive and how I, through observation, over the years, and I realized that only when I see the word covert narcissism and overt narcissism, only then I realize, oh, that makes so much sense. So this is what I'm going to talk about. My dad is overt narcissism, and my mom is covert narcissism. All right. So I'm going to say the overt and the covert. Okay. So overt is my dad. Okay. Just for everyone to be clear with that. Covert is my mom. Covert. And I'm going to give examples on that. Because when I say, where can we spot in life? It's that you actually have to spot and understand how to distinguish. Only then you would not be confused by their actions. Because sometimes it can be very confusing for individuals to encounter such behaviors. People with narcissistic traits. You wouldn't understand. You would think, you would turn into self-blame. You would turn into really questioning self-doubt, self-doubt. This is the point. If you ever feel any kind of self-doubt or self-blame or judging oneself because of other people's behavior, take note. Okay, so take note, meaning that maybe you can look into observe more first, and there's no need to self-blame, no need to judge oneself, okay, based on other people's opinions or comments. There's no need. Whatever other people comments on anything, that's about them. They are expressing, it's just a mirror to seeing, it's just a reflection of their own inner worlds. Okay, similarly for every one of us, whatever we express is just a reflection of our own inner world. Okay, so there's no need to take anything personally. Okay, just be aware of that, because sometimes it's so easy to go into this spiral of when you are living or you are working with people with narcissistic behaviors. Okay, so just take note of that. Like, stop it. No need to go further down. Okay, don't self-blame. There's no need for that. It's not healthy for you. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into the overt and the covert individually or at the same time. How I experienced it. I think it would be very interesting and nice and informative to first talk about how to distinguish between overt and covert. Okay, for overt, so that would be my dad. Okay, for overt narcissism, these are the individuals that would be very actively, and it's not even hidden, that they would be very attention seeking, and everything would be very overt, right? So it's like surface level, you see it like right there. Okay, that's like overt. Okay, covert is very hidden, very subtle, very passive aggressive. Okay, it's like you're being attacked, but you don't know where the attack is coming from. You can't even locate it, and that is the covert. Okay, for the overt part, you know where it's coming from, like you can link it, and I will give examples below. Yeah, as I talk. Okay, so for the overt, it's the easiest to spot is when individuals are very self-absorbing or self-absorbed with their own image or appearance, even their own achievements. They love to be praised, but in a way that they would not reciprocate. Okay, they love to be complimented, like praised. The very trait that we can see is that they would take it in, but that is to feed their ego. What do I mean by that? Is that they would not, they don't feel comfortable to reciprocate, to compliment other people. And when they actually do compliment other people, it's as if you are inferior to them. Like they are superior to you. And so when they give you a compliment or praise you, it's as if there's kind of like a vibe or like a perception that they project out that it's like you earn something from me. Like, does it make sense? It's like you earn something from me, and it's very, very valuable. I don't usually give praise to people, and when I say this to you, it's like you earn something like gold. Okay, like I'm just like acting like how it is, how it usually it would be like. That's why they don't praise other people easily at all, and when they actually give praise, it comes with a price. And it really does. It really is an emotional price. Okay, it's a price that is that it's like you're under their control. It's very subtle, but that also happens with covert narcissism. That's my mom. That also comes with that. So maybe that is a common trait between them. That is actually a common trait, because what I'm speaking is speaking from experience, okay? Like I'm speaking from experience. Now there's one incident that is very interesting, that when I was maybe 7 years old, I think 7 years old, or very, very young, 7 years old or 6 years old. So I was wearing like like short jeans or something. Okay, short jeans, shorts. And then it was when I came home with my mom from outside, okay, from shopping. And then once I stepped into the house, so my dad came out from his room and he saw me with my outfit. He saw my outfit, okay? And my outfit, I was wearing short jeans, okay? And he commented that he said I look like a prostitute. And then, yeah, my dad actually had these comments. He said, oh, wow, and he was laughing that, oh, you look like a prostitute. And then at that time, I did not know the word prostitute, like as in the English word, okay? Because I was just 6 or 7 years old. And then I did not know. I was actually happy on spot because I thought it's something cute or fun. And I asked, what is this word? I was like, I don't know this word. What does it mean? And then he said, oh, go check the dictionary, like that. And then so that's what I did. I checked it, and it evidently everyone knows what prostitute is, right? So I checked that word, and then, you know, my heart actually dropped. I remember my heart dropped, and then I was like this, and then I didn't speak a word. So you see, this can potentially be it is traumatic for a kid, because, you know, your father is supposed to be the one that protects you, but he actually openly, in front of my mom, actually, okay? But even, I don't think my mom knows that word, but no, I think she does. I don't know, but it's too long ago. I don't know if she does or not. Maybe she has a vague idea of what that word means, but maybe not so sure. So maybe she just brushed it off. But see, he openly, verbally abused, according to my outfit, okay? And that is very direct, right? That's very overt, very openly, directly assault, or say attacked, okay? Then I would literally immediately felt attacked, and I know where it's coming from, and I know what he meant by that. And that is overt. What does it mean? He commented on something that can directly link to a receiver that I know is about the genes. Okay, it is about the genes, the short genes, okay? So he's linking that to commenting on me that I look like a prostitute. So that's very open, right? That's very like easy to see. Now, when it comes to covert narcissism is in a very indirect way. How does it feel? Is that as if you feel attacked, but you can't locate where the attack happens. Like, you just feel hurt, but you don't know where. Okay? This is the indirect way of attacking. So it feels like ambush. It's like ambush energy. Like, you don't know where it's coming from, but you feel attacked. Like, suddenly there's like an arrow shooting here, or like suddenly there's a knife throwing from this side, but you don't know where it's coming from. You can't locate it. Okay, that is covert narcissism, meaning passive aggressive. Okay, passive aggressive. For overt, there's not much passive aggressive here, but for covert, yes. The feeling of passive aggressiveness, or you receiving this kind of passive aggression, is basically you can't locate. That's why it's so covert. It's very hidden, very subtle. So let me give an example. Is that usually this kind of feeling, it would be accusation that is based on emotion, that is based on picking. Okay, whereas for the overt one, they don't attack you based on emotions. They attack you based on more of appearance, or anything that's more material, such as money, okay, like how much money you earn, or based on the items that you own, possessions. Okay, so for overt narcissism, they focus much more on the material things, whereas for covert narcissism, they focus much more on emotional. Okay, so that would be triggering. It would be very triggering because for covert narcissism, but here's the thing, both of this, they project out their own insecurities. Okay, because that's actually what happens to my dad. He is very insecure about his own financial material things. Even if he does have things, he would still feel insecure about it. That's when people would chase after money, chase after fame, status. That's what happens here. And for her, covert narcissism is emotional stability. She is unable, to self-regulate. And that's exactly why she would then focus so much on emotions unconsciously. Both are unconscious. But you can see how it manifests in their own lives, that this one is chasing fame, status, and money and neglecting emotion. This one is very, very, both are also unable to self-regulate, but in different ways. Okay, this could be having temper issues, control issues, and also compulsive obsessive behaviors. This one would be, so this is overt, okay? This is covert. Covert would be very much having addiction, having what do you call? Having intrusive self-talks, or say intrusive thoughts. Also emotional, what do you call that? Like very toxic emotional attachment. Okay, is to latch on other people's success or existence, so to suck off, or it's very parasitic. Okay, so both are quite parasitic, but just expressed in different ways. But for the sake of this video, it is a little bit long because we still have things to talk about. I think if anyone wants to discuss more about it, I can post a second video to expand on certain topics. Okay, because I mean, that many years of experience, I can only draw out a few examples, right? So to talk about. Now, if I want to give an example on how a covert narcissist would, how can you spot it, right? Because we're talking about where can you spot. This is how you distinguish first, okay? Overt and covert. And then we will talk about what are their common traits, okay? Now, let's stick with the covert ones now. The covert narcissist, if I have to give an example, that would be like, there was a time that I came back from another city. So I was having an internship in another city, another state. And I came home, and because back then I was much younger, and I was eating a lot of takeaways, okay? And I got chubbier and fatter, okay, at that time. So when I came home, my mom saw me. She felt like, I don't know why she would feel this way though, but it's just something in her. It's all about projection, okay? It's all about projection. And then so she commented on my physique, okay, like my body. And then she said, it came out of nowhere somehow. She looked at me and then she said like, oh my God, you're gonna be like a fat woman when you grow older. I'm like, huh? I mean, now I laugh about it, but then at that point I was super confused. It's so indirect. It's such a comment that is so indirect that I didn't even know how to respond. It's very different from the one that's like my dad calling me prostitute when I was 7 years old. This one, I was 20 something, okay? I did not know how to respond. I'm like, I don't even know where the link is. You know what I'm saying? It's like that one is like the short jeans and prostitute. Yeah, it matches. I understand. Even if it hurts, but I know where it's coming from. Okay? Like, it's very material based, right? Now for this one, you're gonna be, that's the comment, exact comment is like, whoa, oh my God, like you're gonna be very fat, like obese when you grow older. But it's not in a not in a funny or humorous or lighthearted way. She actually said it disapprovingly and with such a concern, and I wouldn't say disgust, but that's how I felt at that point as well. Okay, so it could be valid. So when I received such a comment, I was like, what is this? Like I actually received a shock. You know, that is a shock because both are shocks. Even for the prostitute one, it was a shock, but it was very much more direct and easy to spot. I understand where the link is, but for this one, I'm like, bro, like what? Like what? But I felt hurt. Yes, I felt so attacked, but I did not know where that attack is about or where that attack is from. That's exactly how I felt on spot, because that's why I could not even respond. I don't even know how to respond. Like, it's so passive aggressive in a way that is triggering the emotional aspect of me. Not on the material thing. This one is just on the outlook, okay? But it's also emotionally harming. But this one is like talking about the future. Like, you're gonna be fat, you're gonna be obese, and I don't like it. That's what it means. But then you would not understand where it's coming from. Like, what about I am fat? Like, then why would it even bother you? Like, it's so confusing, right? Okay. So, however, later, now it's only later, like really maybe a year or so, maybe later when I grew older, obviously I did not get that, but it's a joke. But it's just like, I learned about why she would say that. You see, it's actually coming from her own insecurity, right? She had her own insecurity and she projected out onto me. And it really hurts at that time. But what I came to understand is that she actually used this way to express her love. So it is actually very distorted, okay? What she was trying to express there is that she felt very concerned that I ate the takeaways, okay? That I was not maybe taking good care of myself when I was away from home. Instead of actually showing or expressing her love or concerns in a healthy outlet, she was unable to do so, in a healthy way, in a direct way, to ask about me, as in, how are you doing? Are you eating like something not as healthy? Or, maybe it's just a simple, how are you? Right? Never have I ever would receive such a, how are you? Since childhood. And so, but that's okay. It is because they have not received anything from their own childhood, and they have not yet learned to even ask themselves about how am I? Like, how am I doing? Like self-talk, self-healing. They don't, and so it's their own responsibilities. However, they would have certain projections out, and it's acting from their own insecurity. And so that would then turn into passive aggression. You see, what she projected out on me, well, it's actually her own insecurity about herself. That a woman that is fat or obese is unwanted, is unsafe, insecure, and ugly, disappointing, and disgusting. Okay, now I'm not saying that she is obese. No, she's not. It's just that why would you hurt anyone? Why would you say such a thing to anyone? It doesn't even make sense. She would not even know. Here's the thing. The common traits here, now we're clear on this, right? So this is covert narcissism, is that you don't even know where it comes from until later. If we stand from their point of view, only then we would dive into it to understand it's a lot of layers. You have to, like, it's like an onion. You have to keep unwrapping the layers of the onion. Only then you would see where the link is. It's a very deep emotional wound from themselves that they are actually seeing in me. They thought it's me. Does it make sense? Because it's a projection. They project their own insecurity onto me and they comment on me, but it's actually acting out from their own insecurity, their own emotional wound. Because they don't want to see it within themselves. So they choose to project out to people around them. Then so they can avoid the responsibility to look within. It's the same thing all along. Okay? And this would be very passive-aggressive verbal abuse. And this would be direct verbal abuse. Like direct, very aggressive, okay? Very direct, very direct. And see, verbal abuse is only one way. Verbal abuse is only one manifestation or one expression of narcissism, or like overt or covert. But the common trait that I would say about how to spot narcissistic individuals or narcissistic behaviors is, first, if you feel drained, that's the first sign. If you feel drained, okay, you feel tired, you feel like you need to have a couple of hours to, retreat back in your own room, or you need to have your own space. You need to just cut off social activities for even a few days. Like, it could be, right? It's valid. Everyone's feelings is valid. That is the first sign that you feel drained, okay? The second thing would be they always talk about themselves. Okay? They always talk about themselves. They never ask about you about anything. The third thing is their comments could be very hurtful. Like, if you feel any kind of trigger in yourself, you feel hurt, and if you tell them about it, usually, I'm not saying all the time, usually they will say you are very sensitive. You're too sensitive. That is the common usage of the method, how they can get away with their own projections, okay, is that you are too sensitive. And so when they say you are too sensitive, meaning that that's your responsibility to heal yourself, right? And that's actually the projection. They don't want to heal themselves. They project out, okay? And that is exactly, if we can link it to feeling drained, it's because they don't want to heal. So they like to be around individuals that they can have the energies, okay? That actually means attention seeking. The fourth sign is they are usually very attention seeking. Okay, both, okay? For the overt one, it's very clearly that they would be very self-absorbed, satisfied with their own success or even their own judgment, their own criticisms. They are very, very subjective, and they don't like to listen to other people's opinions. They don't adopt other people's advices. They don't like to discuss. They usually have temper issues. They usually are very impatient individuals. They are also usually very concerned with time. Okay, time. Like they get very upset when anyone is not moving according to their schedules. And so that would also become controlling issues. Okay, so because that's how it is. That's how it is. And so, however, the controlling issues, the self-regulation, And also impatience could be, they are usually manifested in different expressions for the overt one and the covert one. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that that is informative for anyone. Speaking from that, because the reason that whatever I spoke on just now, like however I express it, is actually I'm just drawing from my own experiences, like, and I consolidate it into these kind of examples. Okay, yeah. So I'm like just remember. I was just like remembering. Oh, okay, so that, and then so I'm drawing in the information from my experiences, and so let's go into the when should I leave the situation. Now, personally, I would say leaving the situation is much harder when it comes to if these individuals, like the narcissistic individuals, are family members or you have spent a long time with, okay? This is very understandable and natural or normal. What I mean by that is that because just as anything else, right, in the world, that the more time we spend with something, be it is a job, be it is a hobby, be it is a person, be it is a pet, like a dog, a cat, it is more difficult, or it takes more time for us to disintegrate, right, or detach from this kind of any kind of relationships. Okay, so take your time, or take our time, basically, I would say, everyone, take our time to gradually leave the situation. What I mean by gradually, it depends on each individual. For some individuals, it could be 3 months. For some individuals, it could be a year. For some, it could be 10 years, okay? Like, do it at your own pace. There's no need to rush, because it takes time to adjust. The more time you spend in a toxic environment, relatively you need a considerably more time to heal, as in equivalently, okay? But it doesn't mean that it has to be the way all the time. It has to be like this all the time. It depends on each individual, okay? So there's not a fixed formula here. I'm just saying that leave the situation out of self-love and not hatred. Even if there is hatred involved, it is much better to understand that each of us is responsible for our own healing and for our own well-being, just as that person who potentially has said really hurtful words. Okay, because for me, that is the most effective way and efficient way to detach from such a situation. Because when we have more emotional entanglement with the person or people of that situation, the more difficult that it would be for us to detach because of the emotional entanglement. So hatred is a very strong emotion, meaning there would be more emotional entanglement, okay? Whereas for self-love, it is very uplifting, it is vibrating high. So self-love helps us to see with much more clarity, and so to detach consciously, gradually, okay? And now, when I say when should we leave the situation, it depends, right? I said, but setting healthy boundaries is the first step before, like, literally exit the situation, okay? Because anything that is done abruptly can also have abrupt effect, cause and effect, right? So it's much better to kind of like consciously, slowly detaching, and also offering oneself the space to this. Yeah. But it does not mean only physically. Like, if you don't feel safe or comfortable in a physical environment, and you have the conditions to actually leave, go ahead. Okay, I'm not saying that you have to stay there, you have to stay. No, it depends on everyone. Okay, so follow your own heart. You know best. Your heart knows best. Trust yourself. Okay, so setting healthy boundaries, that would be what I want to focus on for this one. Because in certain situations, we are unable to leave the situation physically yet. So if we can't leave the situation physically yet, we can actually leave the situation emotionally and mentally first, right? Because when we actually gradually resolving and healing ourselves from within, the physical aspect of it would also be adjusted according to how we adjust ourselves from within. We resolve the things from within first, okay? So that's why this is the key, okay? That we can actually leave the situation by setting healthy boundaries, proactively setting it, and mentally and emotionally, which is detaching, okay? And so slowly, this entire physical situation would also be adjusted because of our own adjustment from within. So how to set healthy boundaries? I would say there are 3 major things. First, say no. Say no to anything that you don't feel comfortable with, that you always have been feeling entitled or feeling you're obliged to offer or to fulfill these people's request, but all the time you actually feel like a piece of you is like missing, that you feel sacrificing, you feel it's not reciprocating. Okay, you don't receive the love that you give out. You don't receive, yes, you deserve love. You deserve equally yoked love, okay? Reciprocating love. We all deserve it. And so this is the first thing that we all have to acknowledge, that yes, I deserve love very much. Just as everyone, even if for those who have narcissistic behaviors, they also deserve love. But I mean, if they are unaware of their own behaviors, we can't save them by drowning ourselves, right? We have to save ourselves first, and so we can help even more people. And it's up to them if they want to wake up from their own illusions, that they actually have to look within and stop projecting out their own internal traumas, right? So we're not responsible for that. They are responsible for their own homeworks. And so for anyone who feeling it's like the boundaries are very ambiguous, and it's like, oh, because you are my daughter or you are my son, so you have to take care of me, or like, it's all this kind of emotional entanglement, or that is like emotional burden that's placing on you. Learn to say no. First thing, setting healthy boundaries. Learn to say no. The more positive the way that we deliver the no would be the best in a way, okay? Because we just simply say no. Like, no is a full sentence. Okay, no is a full sentence. I don't have to explain to you why, okay? Because I just don't feel comfortable. Be authentic. Second thing, setting healthy boundaries, basically to speak your truth. Saying no, okay, say no. Learn to say no. Because learn to reject. For people who have narcissistic traits, they are very sensitive to rejection. Okay, this goes into the fear of abandonment. Okay, now that would go a long way, so let's not get into that now. But that's what it is. Just learn to say no. When you say no, it means that you protect your own energy. You protect your own safe space. Okay, you hold space. You choose to hold space for yourself, out of self-love, and that's why you say no. Not because of hating the other person, but because I protect myself, my own energy, my safe space, and so I say no by setting the boundary. What's the second thing I said? It was the authentic. Be authentic, meaning speak your truth. If they ask about why are you not doing, you have been doing this for a long time, why are you not doing this now to me? Speak your truth. What does it mean by speaking your truth? It means express your actual genuine feelings. Not to blame them, not blaming, but simply express. For example, how could it be? As we're referring to the example I just said, it's like, you have been doing this for a long time, why are you not doing this now, right? Well, we can respond. It's just an example, okay? That, yes, I know that I have been doing this for a long time for you, and now I choose not to do this anymore because I actually don't feel comfortable with that. I would love to spend more time on this activity, say something that I would like to work on, because I would love to, grow a business out of it, and I would love to spend more time to devote my passion into it. I would love to grow. That's it. That's it. There's not one thing that's about the other person. No blaming, no judging, no criticisms, just speaking my truth that this is actually what I want. This is what it is. I just want to do this, and I actually do feel uncomfortable to keep doing this because I want to do that. So I want to allocate my time to there. Matter of fact is the most effective because there's no emotion in there. You're just stating the facts. Bam, bam, bam. That's it. Usually, when any kind of people receive this, narcissistic people receive this kind of response, they would come to a halt. Like, they would not really know how to respond, or in another way, they would try to attack more. Say, they would say, "Oh, so now you don't care about me," or da da da. So then they would go into like self-victimization mode, which is quite not surprising. So at this point, distance oneself. Third thing, because I'm like, how to set healthy boundaries, right? So first thing, say no. Second, speak your truth. Third thing, distancing. Like, really, distance yourself. The distancing basically is to have less interaction and choose to, There's no need to tell them about your emotions, how you feel all the time. No, because here's the thing, it's not that they're bad people, it's because they are unable to validate their own emotions already. So how would then they be able to validate yours? Right? There's no point. There's no point in even doing that. So there's no need to seek for their validation in how we feel, how our emotions, okay? Whatever they say to us, if we tell them why your words hurt me, they would not be able to understand because they don't want to understand. Because if they actually choose to understand, that means that they have to look within and see their own dark room. Okay? And all the time they have been trying to avoid. So why would then they admit how you feel? Because when they acknowledge whatever you feel, because they hurt you through their words, that means they have to look within. So no point, right? So distance yourself. Just keep a healthy distance. Less interactions and no need to argue, no need to debate. Because the more that we debate, the more of these hurtful words would be projected out from them. So distance. So these are the three main things that I would say is to set healthy boundaries like that. In any situations, be it is you're physically away from that person or these people, or you're actually still physically close, living together or working together, but you can distance yourself emotionally and mentally. First thing first, the three things that I just talked about. All right, okay, let's go into the second last one, which is how to leave or live the situation. Actually, isn't the same that I just talked about, the healthy boundaries? Now I'm just like, yeah, so if this one, like how to leave or live the situation. Oh no, there's something actually very significant that I would like to talk about here. How to leave the situation, okay? There's something very significant from my own experience is that don't tell them that you are acting this out of self-love. Straight to the point. I'm being bluntly honest. Whenever you or I or anyone, okay, choose to leave these kind of toxic situations or relationships or narcissistic people, express yourself in a very neutral way, and say very neutral way, and don't try not to involve any emotion. As in, no emotional words or expressions or phrases, okay? There's no need for that, because usually how we would feel being triggered by narcissistic comments is because these comments would attack our emotional trauma or mental trauma, okay? So if we don't give that options for them, no space for that, like we don't even open the options for that, for them to actually attack, okay, then the chances of them attacking us emotionally or mentally would be greatly reduced. Because when we choose to leave a situation, like these situations, individuals with narcissistic traits, they would be very triggered. Because the last thing that they want to happen is to see you who choose to leave. The last thing that they want to see is to see you actually leaving them. Why? Because these individuals actually have a very strong, deep wound of fear of abandonment. They are very fearful of being abandoned. And that's why that would develop into controlling issues, okay? So when you choose to leave, that would be activated in them. So that is why it is very delicate here that in order to protect yourself from any further attacks, do not even give the options, do not even give the space for emotional attacks, okay? Because you don't even give that options to them. So you take back your control, you claim back your control, you claim back your power, your inner empowerment, okay? Self-empowerment, out of self-love. When you operate in the name of self-love, they have nothing. They have nothing to control over you. They have nothing, literally nothing. Because the one thing that they lack is self-love. They don't understand what is self-love, because it's exactly the same thing that they have to learn is self-love. It is because of self-love, or say their lacking to understand of self-love, causes them to avoid looking within. Does it make sense? Because if a person operates in self-love, they would have a very strong sense of holding space for oneself within, with self-acceptance, self-compassion, not self-victimization. You see, there's a huge difference here. Self-compassion is not self-victimization. Self-compassion comes from self-acceptance and self-understanding. When a person is in the mode of self-love, this person would, even if it's not very pleasant, but this person is willing to enter the dark room, the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind, to heal oneself from within, to clean out the dirty room, to reorganize and arrange the stuff, to throw out whatever is already unnecessary for a long time. This is the power of self-love. If you see, that is exactly this element that narcissistic people are unable to learn yet. I'm not saying that they can't learn. No, it is up to them. Whenever it clicks in them, they want to learn, they can learn. It's just they are on their own time, right? Everyone is on their own time zone. So in their own time zone, right? We can't really hurry anyone. We can't force anyone to heal. We can't force anyone to understand anything when it's not their time to understand yet. So when they receive your message that I'm operating out of self-love, and so that's why I choose to leave the situation, or leave this conversation, or leave this interaction, or reduce the amount of interaction, they would freeze, like freeze, because it's something that is so foreign. It's like a foreign body to them. They don't understand what is self-love. So they can't accuse you of anything. They would go into self-victimization mode, could be, yes, because like, oh, now you only love yourself and you don't love me. And it is at this point, you would have to activate your three things. Say no, learn to say no, and also speak your truth, and also keep your distance. Okay? That's what it is. And yeah, so that would be a very significant thing that I have learned from my own experience, is to be neutral, and also speak about is operating out of self-love, and be in the mode of self-love as well. That is absolutely the most important thing. Okay. So that being said, how to live the situation, basically like live with the situation, is, I think, it's basically what I said previously in the how to set healthy boundaries. Because when you live the situation, you live in such a situation, is to set the healthy boundaries. The three things. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now we get into the last one. The last one is, why is self-love the cure? I just talked about that actually. It's because these people. So if anyone, you jump into the timestamp now, like, why is self-love in the cure? Go back to how to leave or live the situation. Okay, I talked about it because I'm like, the timestamp is like, reorganizing. But anyways, so let me wrap up with that. Like, this is the wrap up now. Wrap up, why is self-love the cure? Because narcissistic people, this is the lesson that they need to learn. In order to heal oneself, for anyone actually, not just narcissistic people, even for people with BPD, okay, borderline personality disorder, even for people with any kind of bipolar disorder, any kind of this, it's out of self-love. You need to heal from within. You need to churn out the shadows, look into the shadows, and seek to understand oneself as well as the conditions, because we are not these. We are not the traumas. We are not the shocks. We are the ones that absorb and able to transmute. So we are all here to learn how to transmute. But for those who are unable to transmute yet, because of the lack of self-love, or the not yet able to understand or learn what self-love is, these are the ones that would, have this kind of shock energy being stuck in the system, meaning the human psyche. So self-love is the cure, because it is through self-love we can then accept ourselves, learn about ourselves, nurture ourselves, and grow with ourselves. So that's what it is. And also when we love ourselves and we stay on the path of self-love, we are actually serving as templates or examples for other people to see. And so hopefully they would also choose to go on the path of healing and out of self-love, even for those who are narcissistic. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the entire videos, and I love you all. And I wish you all a wonderful day, and see you in the next one. And leave a comment below if you feel like it. Very well appreciated for your participation. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye bye.